Yeah, I'll react to that, sure.
All right, guys, Lindy Beach time. Spears are better than swords. Scientific proof. Now, of course, she's going to go into it, but I think we can all imagine, sort of, to an extent, what would be good and what would be bad on a battlefield in certain scenarios. Of course, the spear has the length, but it seems like if you can get, as an attacker, if you can get past the spear tip, then you're pretty vulnerable. And I guess my answer is why not both? Why not have a spear and a short sword to quickly take out if the spear fails, is my kind of first thought when thinking about this topic. So let's go. Original link to the video, top of the description, right below that, link to the Discord. Click on it, send you right over there. Love to have you. Let's go. This is a great channel, Preemptive Like.
Matt Easton very kindly invited me to Fight Camp.
Thank you for inviting me, Matt.
You're very welcome.
Yes, and whilst I was there, we thought it would be a jolly good wheeze to mount an experiment with spears. Now, you see, the spear is a bizarrely neglected weapon in the worlds of historical European martial arts, or HEMA. It was the most common weapon in the past, the whole of the past, from Stone Age hunter-gatherers right the way up to the 20th century. Everyone used the spear, so it must have been pretty good. Far and away, the most common soldier in the ancient and medieval worlds was a guy with a spear in one hand and a big shield in the other. So this combination must have been really good to have proven so popular with so many people for so flipping long, and yet it's neglected. Now, HEMA people, they know their swords. Oh yes, they know their swords. They've all tried backsword and small sword and long sword and great sword and messer and, you know, all those, but most of them have never used a spear before. So it's worth trying the experiment. Are spears better than swords? How can they possibly be? Because everyone knows a sword's great, right? But no, spears are really good, as these experiments, I think, clearly show, although they also show that the spear has certain vulnerabilities. Now, importantly, the people you're about to see are not experts in spears. They've all used loads of swords loads of times, but most of these people have never picked up a spear in their life. And those that had used it very seldom and not in combination with shield.
I find that a bit odd, since you'd think that someone who's so engrossed with kind of older weaponry would at some point have wanted to pick up a spear and just kind of play with it.
So, let's get on with the experiment. Oh, but before we do, if you find this very interesting and you want to know more, I've uploaded a longer version of this video which has all 65 bouts in it, as well as quite a bit of pre and post-match analysis from Matt Easton and me. Right, let's get on with it.
8-foot spear without shield against one-handed sword. Go!
Well, here you see the essential problem for the swordsman. He cannot reach his opponent. He can weave about and parry with his sword to keep himself safe, but the only way he can win the fight is to close with his foe. Once up close, he should beat the spearman. But look how fast the head of the spear is.
Right.
A sudden charge can work. Once in close, the spearman is doomed. But most charges fail. Closing with a spearman, it turns out, is really difficult. Really difficult. Really? Difficult. Good solid chest hit, but it's not impossible.
I am blown away by just how fast the spearhead is moving, and it seems like without the shield, he's so much more agile.
Oh!
The shorter weapon
That was pretty great, sorry.
Oh!
That was great.
Impossible.
Oh!
The shorter weapon, once up close, has lots of options. The spear's length becomes a drawback.
Why is it always the groin? I wasn't going to hit.
In these bouts between a spear and a variety of one-handed weapons, the results were spears 9, others 3.
Right, but surely it would be easier for the swordsman to close with the spearman if he had a shield. So let's start him off with a buckler.
Right, well, we might expect a bit more success from the swordsman. Possibly they didn't open with their most skilled user of the buckler, though. Watch how his buckler swings off to the left as he attacks, and he's dead. A more effective technique is to hold your shield in front of you. This guy gets in, and then the end is pretty quick. Alas, though, this technique is not a guarantee of victory. Sometimes the swordsman got in, but more often not. This doesn't count, though. If they hit each other, that's a double, and no one scores.
That's it.
This is a good fight. Good defensive work there. Feints high, goes low, got him. Adding a buckler helped a bit. Sword and buckler men won 2 bouts to the spearman's 4.
Well, it seems that we might need a bigger sword. So let's try some long swords.
I think this is just going to be even worse.
Now, everyone here had been to loads of longsword lessons. This man adopts the textbook ox stance and closes and finishes with what they call Zwirchhau. This wasn't the universal result of longsword versus spear, however. This chap did get in once again, but in the main it was a tale of dying swordsmen. In the bouts of longswords against spears, it was
Guys, what's so crazy to think about this is that, you know, in games today, you respawn. You know what I mean? Like back then, it's like everyone's KD. It's like you get killed and that's it. Obviously, like that's it. And so everyone alive has got to be pretty decent. No, that doesn't make any sense. Never mind.
Is 4, longswords 2.
All right then, what if the sword is a lot bigger? Let's try a socking great big two-handed Zweihander.
These men had learned greatsword patterns and tried some out. They are big and scary, but they are predictable. And this was the pattern for what followed. Massive Zweihanders losing out to the much more nimble and precise spears.
Zweihanders.
Spears 4, greatswords 0. This was a surprise to me, a mild surprise, but I was expecting some success with the greatsword against the spear. I would say that one of the reasons that the greatsword has failed was that the longer a weapon is, if it's made out of nylon, then the floppier it is. And so a real greatsword, which would have been made out of much stiffer metal, would have fared a bit better against the stiff wooden spears that we were using. But I think that's a minor point. I think more importantly, it was the technique that the greatsworders had chosen. They used these big swings, which might work against a long, ponderous pike, for instance, which is a much slower weapon than a quick, nimble spear. Also, greatsworders tend to be taught how to fight using a greatsword against somebody else who's also, rather bizarrely, armed with a greatsword. In HEMA, most people are taught a weapon against itself, even if in real battles that would almost never happen. And if someone in a battle is using a greatsword, you don't send a greatsworder to take him on. You take him on with something else. It would be a rather bizarre combination. But anyway, had the greatsworders instead used those second quillons a little way up the blade and put their hand up like next to that, and then their other hand right down by the pommel, they would have turned their greatswords into shortish spears, and then I would think they would have done a lot better. Now, we didn't run that particular experiment, but we did use some half-swording with a different weapon.
A change in technique now, sports fans, as we pit spear against longsword used half-sworded.
This technique stiffens the slightly floppy nylon blades and seems to encourage the swordsman to get stuck in.
Not me.
First blood to the swordsman. The general pattern was that either the fight was a quick victory for a fast-stabbing spearman, or a longer and much messier tussle with the half-sworder coming out on top.
Yeah, once you get the hand on the spear, then it's pretty much game over, it seems.
A tie. Spears 3, half-sworded longswords 3.
So far, it seems that the spears are carrying the day, but surely it will be much easier for the swordsman to close with the spearman if he has a big shield to help him. Science!
Now, with a large shield, closing with a lone spearman becomes easy. However, most of our test subjects had not used a shield like this before and were still unhelpfully wary. But as long as the man with the shield holds it flat on in front of him, he's fairly safe. But the longer he hangs back, the more chances the spearman has to score a hit. He and tries holding it sideways on, which doesn't work as well. Hold your shield in front of you. Another thing that went wrong was people ducking their heads and blinding themselves as they advanced. Don't do this.
Yes! That was suicidal. Let me grab my gear.
Head up, shield forward, and charge in. Works every time.
How about double shield? And just kind of like a shield whack or something.
Yeah, how do that? Exactly, yeah. Dead. Coming. Yep. Yes, absolutely.
This one takes a bit longer, but whoa! Keep your shield in front of you. Oh, come on, get in. Get in there, man. This is painful to watch. Stylish finish, though. Here we have how to use a spear versus how not to use a shield. Pink Legs is keeping his foe back with lots of quick thrusts, high and low. He goes low and scores a hit to the knee there. The shieldsman drops his shield. No, keep it in front of you, opening him up to a good thrust to the throat. You can see in the close-up that would have been fatal to an unarmored man. Enraged, Red Truth swings wildly with his sword arm and at the same time swings his shield out to the left, opening him up to another deft thrust to the throat, which this time ends the matter. One chap tried using a cross-grip medium shield. These don't work so well. Ooh, straight to the throat. That looks painful. Another thing that was tried was tripping over the opponent's spear and crashing into him.
What's the way to
Well, it wasn't exactly elegant, but it did the job.
Scores on the doors. Spears 7, swords 6. The odds are definitely improving for the swordsman now.
Now to pit sword and shield against spear and shield.
This makes a huge...
Yeah, okay, I think the spear and shield is going to be worse because one-handed spear is going to be exponentially less mobile than a two-handed spear, and so I think this will be better for the swordsman.
Sword and shield against spear and shield.
This makes a huge difference because now the spearman has to use his spear one-handed, which is much slower and weaker than when using two hands. And I don't think anyone here had ever tried it before. I expect victories for the swordsman. Some spearmen tried holding their spears overarm like this and quickly learned that it doesn't work. No one tried using overarm technique twice.
Why not use, like, if I had the spear and the shield, like, I'll use my phone and a piece of my glasses. Like, why not? I just want to take it off so you can see me. Kind of like use it, like you see, like this is my shield and this is my spear. Like put it on the shield and like use it as a, you know, like use the shield and the spear as kind of one weapon and move it around and just like jab and always have it like guided on the shield rather than having it like this where you're much more just like, you know, okay.
It's hopeless. Another failed experiment was spear and buckler. You swap all the vigor of two-handed spear for the protection of a teacup.
I like the axe.
The left-handed spearman was at a lesser disadvantage, but still died. We learned that spear and shield is very vulnerable to sword and shield. Oh, and that violence, as here, can sometimes triumph. So now the situation has reversed. Swords, 6. Spears, 0. On to the group round. The spear, of course, is a battlefield weapon used by large formations of many men. For the first 4 bouts, therefore, the swordsmen were required to attack from the front at first. It was messy, and the spearmen were all new to helping each other out. A spearman can parry blows aimed at his neighbours as well as those aimed at himself, and the easiest targets to hit are not the man opposite, but the men either side of him.
Come on, help him out!
Nevertheless, all 4 bouts were won by the spearmen,
Yes!
even if they themselves didn't quite know how they pulled off a victory.
That's cool. So you got to rely on people being honest, which I'm sure they are. Like when you're hit, because you might not all see it. But that's interesting how like you're focusing on blocking the man in front of you, but sort of skewering the guy to your diagonal.
Against experienced swordsmen. I think my shouted encouragement possibly helped.
Quick, spearman!
Get up. Oh.
Come on, spearman, help your mate! Oh, come, yeah, that's... Swordsman, you're dead!
You're dead.
Go!
Next, the swordsmen were told that they were free to launch their attack from any angle they pleased. Again, things got messy, but the odds swung in favour of the swordsmen, who won some costly victories.
It's interesting. They got the first guy, the spears got the first guy pretty quickly, but that split second of diverted attention makes the sword guys swing around and kill him.
Good hit!
I suggested that
Was
the
there
spearmen
trash talking
countercharged.
on
When they
battlefields?
heeded me a bit, this led to a flawless victory.
Very nice.
Now, sit back and marvel at the pinnacle of spearmanship that came out of all we had learned so far.
His arm.
Are you going to be putting Benny Hill over that one?
In the group bouts, when attacking from the front,
Benny Hill.
spears
Hey.
4, swords 0. When attacking from any direction, spears 1, swords 3. So, what have we learned? Well, I haven't learned all that much because all these experiments confirmed what I had discovered many years ago back in my university days when I was doing loads of reenactment, fighting in Dark Age style battles with almost all the time spear and shield. Those were our primary weapons and we tried them against loads of combinations, and so we found out that the spear will beat a sword, that a sword and shield will usually beat a spear, but the spearman stands a reasonable chance if he's good, that sword and shield will beat spear and shield pretty much every single time, but the
How about like spear and dagger? Like so that like a dagger you can quickly, if you see they grab your spear, just kind of let it go and stab. Or
in group fights, it's a different story. In group fights, the spearmen are able to help out their neighbours very, very well in ways that swordsmen simply can't. And spearmen will beat swordsmen pretty much every time unless the swordsmen are able to surround, penetrate, break up the formation of the spearmen, so the spearmen can't act as a cohesive team, in which case it becomes a free-for-all which could go either way. But do remember that spearmen in historical reality didn't just have spears, they had other weapons dangling from their belts. They had daggers, hatchets, maces, swords, or some backup weapons, so that when the spears did get broken up, they could then just ditch their spears, perhaps throwing them first, and then draw some shorter weapon, and then they've evened up the odds again. So there you go. In summary, spears are good. And keep your shield in front of you!
Really cool video. Lindy Beach is awesome. Yeah, really cool. So I'm gonna watch a few more videos today. Hope you're all doing well. If not, keep your chin up. You'll be good soon. Don't worry. Emotions are fickle.